Because it seems like over these past few years, these two have spent an obscene amount of money on interior decor.
It didn't start with shouting, or slamming doors, or a dramatic walkout caught on camera. It started with a spreadsheet, a highlighter, and Janelle Brown, sitting alone at her kitchen table, quietly putting the pieces together. She wasn't looking for a fight. That's not her style. Janelle never cared much for drama. She cared about stability, logic, the numbers. And on that chilly afternoon, the numbers weren't making sense. It had been a few weeks since the Coyote Pass sale, a moment that was supposed to bring closure, freedom, even healing. Instead, it brought confusion, dread, a gnawing suspicion she couldn't shake. So she did what she always did when her instincts spoke louder than words. She opened her laptop. There, buried in the financial statements, receipts, and transfers, was a name, a gallery, then another, and another. 6 different charges to luxury art dealers. Thousands of dollars in decor expenses. Not renovations, not furniture, not anything anyone needed. Article investment pieces. Trinkets with names like Safe Harbor and Return to Eden. Some of them priced higher than her son's car. At first, Janelle thought it was a mistake. It had to be. But the more she read, the more the air thickened around her. Over $140,000. On what? On sculpted bears, abstract canvases, surrealist wall prints that didn't warm a room. They performed in it. And all of it? Paid from communal funds. The pot that every wife, every child had counted on for homes, food, basic stability. It was like a punch to the gut. Because Janelle wasn't living in a castle. She'd lived in a camper, hauling water, rationing power. Every week was a new budget, a new stretch. And while she was skipping dinner parties to save gas money, someone else had been shopping like she won the lottery. That someone was Robyn. And suddenly, Janelle saw the picture. Not the gallery walls or the golden frames, but the pattern. For years, Janelle had played fair. When Christine needed help, she showed up. When Mary drifted into solitude, she stayed respectful. When Robyn joined the family, Janelle hoped, truly hoped, that things would balance out. That Robyn would get a job, pull her weight, pitch in. But Robyn never did. And Janelle, she just kept waiting. Until now. Now she had proof. Now she had receipts. And it didn't matter if Kody tried to spin it, because this wasn't about a statue. This was about trust. The moment Kody saw the receipts, the air changed. Thick silence. Janelle didn't yell. She didn't have to. She just dropped the stack on his countertop and folded her arms. And Kody, he knew. He tried, of course, to pivot, to soften it. They're investments, he said, pointing to a $4,200 sculpture like it had a stock ticker attached. But Janelle wasn't buying it. She knew an investment when she saw one. You don't dust investments with a Swiffer. You don't stash them in rooms that aren't even listed in the house tour. She asked him, plain and direct, "Did you use my share from the land sale?" And Kody didn't answer. He muttered something about resale value, beautifying the home, staging. But Janelle had already seen the photos. This wasn't staging. It was indulgence. And what stung most wasn't the money. It was the betrayal. Because while she and Christine scraped together money for groceries, Robyn had been buying custom sculptures and art prints that belonged more in a museum than a living room. That night, Janelle didn't sleep. She sat with the receipts like they were diary entries, circled totals in red. $4,600, $6,700, $11,000, one after another. She remembered Robyn saying they were all in this together. She remembered Kody promising things would even out. But $148,000 on art? There was no together in that number, just Robyn's name, again and again. And by morning, Janelle wasn't just suspicious. She was furious, not loud, not chaotic, but the kind of fury that settles deep in your bones, the kind that changes you. Coyote Pass was supposed to be the family's future, a fresh start, a symbol of polygamy done right, equal land, equal homes, a new legacy for the kids. But 6 years later, it was just another broken dream, sold off for $1.5 million and a profit of around $600,000. That money should have been shared, fairly. Instead, Robyn and Kody started spending. New furniture, new jewelry, designer boots, and Janelle? She got a check, weeks late, light on the amount, and heavy with excuses. And that was when she really started digging, not just into the bank records, but into the truth. The door didn't look like much, Just a simple hallway door, tucked upstairs, away from the curated main rooms and carefully staged decor. But when Janelle opened it, the air shifted. It wasn't just a closet, it wasn't even storage, it was something else entirely. Soft lights hummed overhead. Shelves lined every wall, polished wood, perfectly measured, built with intention. Tiny velvet hangers held lace dresses the size of a teacup, mannequins, display cases, hand-painted trunks, and in the center, rows and rows of pristine, eerily lifelike 18-inch dolls. They were dressed to the nines, bonnets, petticoats, gowns that looked like they belonged in a royal court. Some even wore matching jewelry. Janelle stood in silence, not because she didn't understand what she was seeing, but because she did. This wasn't a hobby. This was a shrine. She took a slow step forward. Her eyes scanned the names on tags, the custom-stitched labels, the delicate embroidery. Every detail screamed time, money, obsession. And in that moment, everything she'd circled in red, every receipt, every charge, every missing dollar, clicked into place. Robyn hadn't just been decorating a house. She was building a fantasy, and the price tag, it was staggering. According to fan forums, receipts, and screenshots Janelle had quietly gathered, Robyn had spent more than $62,000 just on doll accessories in the past year. That didn't even include the dolls themselves, or the handmade furniture shipped from overseas. Some items were commissioned from niche designers, known for charging $300 for a single gown. There were reviews, dozens of them. Robyn leaving glowing praise on Etsy, thanking artists for their exquisite heirloom quality and authentic French lace. One print read, "Dolls are my therapy." Framed, hung with pride. Janelle remembered her own budget the month before, how she'd put off buying tires for her car, how Christine had sold pieces from her boutique just to help cover Isabel's spinal surgery. And now here was Robyn, quietly assembling a museum. That realization? It didn't feel like anger. It felt like grief, because she had believed in them, in the collective. The idea that even if polygamy was messy, they were at least in it together. But Robyn wasn't in it together. She was in it alone, surrounded by tiny satin slippers and miniature tea sets worth more than a month's groceries. It wasn't just the extravagance that crushed Janelle. It was the fact that no one ever talked about it. Not Kody, not Robyn, not the other wives, and certainly not on camera. Robyn's doll closet was like a secret inside a secret, the physical manifestation of everything Janelle had been quietly feeling for years. That Robyn always got more. That the rules bent when it came to her. That family money meant something very different when it came to whose hands were holding the checkbook. And then, the Etsy trail. Janelle wasn't the only one who noticed. Reddit sleuths, fans, even bloggers began piecing together the spending. Over 100 purchases in 2024 alone, custom orders, imported accessories. One pair of doll boots, handcrafted from genuine leather, cost $275. It was dizzying. Because while the rest of the family pinched pennies, Robyn was curating a luxury lifestyle scaled down to 1/3 size. Even the walls of the doll room told a story, adorned with miniature paintings, tiny chandeliers, rugs no wider than a placemat, but custom woven and dyed in rich hues. And the worst part? It wasn't hidden. It just wasn't acknowledged. Robyn never apologized. Kody never defended it. They simply carried on, as if this wasn't deeply offensive to the women who had sacrificed so much. Janelle remembered one night vividly. She was in the camper, trying to make sense of another unexpected charge on the joint account. Christine had just texted her, furious, because her daughter hadn't received help with tuition. And Robyn? Robyn was reviewing a $180 custom-made doll cloak. It was surreal. There was no we anymore, only her. What finally pushed Janelle over the edge wasn't a sculpture or a doll. It was what she heard from Gwen. In a quiet moment, Gwendolyn had said it aloud, the thing everyone else had been too afraid to say. "They're shopaholics. My dad and Robyn. They spend like crazy, and not within their means." Janelle froze, because Gwen had lived it. She'd grown up inside it, and if even she saw it, what more did anyone need? The kids had watched it all happen. The nanny showing up when Kody refused to visit Christine's house. The expensive jewelry, the designer boots, the nanny's backup, the constant justification for why Robyn got everything, while the rest were told to wait, to understand, to sacrifice. This wasn't a phase. It was a pattern. A hierarchy built on silence, maintained by guilt, and padded with throw pillows that cost more than car payments. Janelle looked around the doll closet one last time. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. But in that silence, something broke. Not her heart, her patience. Because the real betrayal wasn't that Robyn had spent so much. It was that she never once thought she shouldn't. The vision had always been so clear. 4 wives, 4 homes, one big piece of land where the family could build something lasting, together. Coyote Pass was supposed to be a legacy, the proof that even in a polygamist marriage, unity was possible. But by 2024, that dream was buried under red Arizona dirt. The land had been sold, all 14 acres of it. On paper, the deal looked like a win, $1.5 million. After costs and back taxes, the family came out with about $600,000 in profit. The public message was simple: divide it evenly, no drama. But behind closed doors, things didn't add up. Janelle's payout arrived late and lighter than expected. No warning, no explanation, just a check that didn't match what she knew she was owed. At first, she blamed paperwork, then escrow delays. But as the weeks passed, she saw it for what it was: another dodge, another lie. Meanwhile, Robyn and Kody were thriving. New furniture deliveries, jewelry upgrades, church outfits that looked like they came off designer racks. They were smiling more, looser. Like a weight had been lifted, or maybe shifted heat off their shoulders and onto someone else's. And Janelle? She was still chasing clarity, still asking the same question: where did the rest of her money go? So she went back into the statements. That's when she saw it. Not just the art purchases, not just the doll accessories, but transfers. Charges that didn't have names or explanations. Withdrawals labeled reimbursement, household, miscellaneous. And the amounts matched too closely with what was missing from her payout. One charge stood out. It wasn't large, just a few $100s. But it was tied to a doll furniture maker, a custom miniature cabinet for displaying collectibles. The shipping address was Robyn's. The payment came from the communal account. And that cabinet? It had been paid for by someone else entirely. It was Gwendolyn who first said it out loud. "They're shopaholics," she told her followers. "My dad and Robyn. They spend recklessly and definitely not within their means." It hit Janelle like a slap, because she wasn't angry at Gwen. She was angry that it had to come from Gwen. A daughter watching her parents play house while the rest of the family just tried to survive. For years, Janelle had downsized everything, sold her Las Vegas home, lived in a cramped apartment, moved into a camper. She gave up comfort for a future she believed in, a future she was promised. But Robyn was building a doll empire. Janelle remembered one specific day. She needed money to cover a plumbing issue at the camper, a simple repair, temporary. She asked about the shared account, and Kody told her they needed to be cautious, that the money was tied up. That same week, Robyn left a glowing Etsy review for a hand-stitched bonnet and matching doll shoes. It was more than disrespect. It was theft, emotionally, if not legally. Janelle started connecting the dots, and the further she dug, the worse it got. She found transfers that were never approved, funds moved without discussion, charges under Robyn's name but tied to accounts funded by everyone. The land sale, it turned out, wasn't the clean break they had claimed. It was just another shell game. Because somewhere between the dream of Coyote Pass and the reality of split checks, someone had started moving the goalposts. Robyn didn't just get her payout. She got more, a bigger plot, a more desirable location. And when Janelle pulled the real estate records, it confirmed her worst fear, her own investment. The cash she'd poured in years ago from her Vegas house had helped cover the cost of Robyn's land. Not with a contract, not with an agreement, just with blind trust. She remembered how Kody had justified it back then. "It's temporary," he said. "Robyn and the kids need stability. We'll make it right." But when it was Janelle's turn to need that same stability, there was no money left, no extra support, just a suggestion to get creative. And by creative, Kody meant live in a trailer with no plumbing and no guarantee of anything getting better. Robyn, meanwhile, was hanging 4,700 paintings and fluffing pillows in rooms that would never host a shared family dinner again. Janelle's rage didn't erupt. It simmered. Every new transaction she uncovered, every gallery charge, every doll dress, every decorative candle Robyn bought, while the rest of them scrimped it, hardened something inside her. Because it wasn't just favoritism anymore, it was a financial hierarchy. And Robyn sat at the top queen of a castle built with other people's money. Janelle finally saw what was really happening, and it wasn't just her who suffered. It was the whole family, the kids who missed out, the wives who waited, the promises made in living rooms and confessionals, all of it, broken. And the next clue she found, that would change everything. Because Robyn's house, the one now listed online with perfectly staged photos, wasn't just expensive. It was a gallery, a vault, and it wasn't even showing the whole story. It was a beautiful listing, clean, staged, polished like a magazine spread. Robyn and Kody's house had officially hit the market. The photos showed pristine counters, neutral tones, cozy corners lit by golden hour sunlight. To the casual eye, it looked like a dream. But Janelle wasn't a casual viewer. She looked closer. Even in the carefully curated photos, she recognized pieces, artworks, figurines, frames, a canvas she remembered spotting on a receipt for nearly $5,000, a bronze sculpture she'd once seen in an invoice for over $7,000, a painting titled Spirit of the Universe. Price tag, $11,500. And this was the cleaned-out version, the prepped-for-sale version, which meant one thing: what the public could see was just the surface. The real story had already been boxed up and hidden away. Janelle scrolled through the images, room by room, hallway by hallway. Something felt off. The house looked hollow, almost too perfect, like it was trying to erase its own history. That's when fans took over. Reddit lit up. Zoomed-in screenshots, cross-referenced art pieces, Decore sites, catalogs. Some users tracked statues down to specific galleries. One found a wall clock listed at $1,200. Another identified a surrealist painting available only through a private fine art dealer in California. Collages popped up, spreadsheets, full breakdowns of every visible item, even the ones that looked subtle. A ceramic bear tucked into a corner, a crystal vase on the dining table, were logged, priced, cataloged. And the total? Over $148,000. That was just the visible stuff. The pieces still left in the house when photos were taken. The doll room wasn't pictured at all. Neither were the walk-in closets, the storage units, or the custom-built shelving Janelle had seen with her own eyes. One statue, a bear clinging to a tree, carved from ironwood, matched a known listing of $6,900. It wasn't a home anymore. It was an art gallery, paid for, at least in part, with communal money. Janelle stared at one listing photo. The living room. Beige sofa, framed art, a crystal bowl centered on the table like it was nothing. But she remembered the receipt. That bowl alone cost more than what she had budgeted for her entire camper kitchen. What haunted her wasn't the money. It was the silence. Because while Robyn and Kody lived surrounded by these indulgences, the rest of the family struggled in full view of the cameras. Christine financing her daughter's surgery by selling boutique items, Mary covering her own mortgage alone, Janelle hauling water in the Arizona sun, all while Kody wore a $1,100 David Yurman pendant and Robyn added another custom-made dress to her doll collection. The disconnect was staggering. Christine had once said it best, "Kody takes care of himself. He does what's right for him and what's right for Robyn." Now those words echoed through every listing photo. What made it worse was the timing, because just as fans were unraveling receipts and magnifying home decor, TLC released a teaser. Footage of Kody and Robyn, alone, no mention of the other wives. No hint of polygamy, just smiles, polite laughter. Talk of healing and new chapters. It was almost cinematic, a soft rebrand, a clean slate built on silence, and for fans, it felt like a slap. As if the two people who had benefited the most were now being handed a spin-off, a fresh narrative, while the women who had sacrificed everything were being written out again. Janelle didn't say anything publicly, but sources close to her claimed she was paying attention. She'd seen the listing photos, heard the whispers, read the outrage online, and she wasn't alone anymore. She wasn't the only one with receipts, because for the first time, the public was seeing it, not the edited version, the real one, the overspending, the favoritism, the empire of luxury built while others were told to wait their turn. Robyn and Kody might have had the biggest house, but Janelle, she had the truth, and she wasn't letting it go. There's a quiet kind of power that comes from being underestimated, from being the one who doesn't raise her voice, who waits, watches, remembers. Janelle had always played that role, the reasonable one, the bookkeeper, the bridge between chaos and calm, But behind the calm face, she had been taking notes. Literal ones, ledger entries, printouts, bank statements, screenshots. She hadn't saved them out of paranoia. She saved them because she knew, one day, the truth would matter. And now, that day had come. While Robyn and Kody floated through curated interviews, posing for a narrative of healing, Janelle sat at her kitchen table again. Not with a highlighter this time, but with copies. Organized, dated, cross-checked. She wasn't planning a press tour. She was preparing for something real. Legal consultations, private conversations with financial advisors, quiet calls to producers who had been around since the beginning. Because this wasn't about revenge. It was about protection, of her kids, of what she was owed, of the years she gave and gave and gave, and the silence she got in return. She hadn't told the full story on camera. Not yet. But people close to the show said she had already flagged concerns to production, that she'd spoken up about the spending months before Robyn's house even hit the market. She wasn't trying to burn it all down. She was asking for accountability, and now the fans were demanding it too. They'd seen the evidence. They'd compared purchases to timelines, calculated totals, and called out the imbalance with a clarity that couldn't be ignored. One figurine, a bronze bear named Ursa Major, cost more than Gwen had received for years of appearing on the show. One piece of wall art, Matrix of Love, cost more than Janelle had spent furnishing her entire trailer. And still, Kody talked about fairness, about how they all used to work together, but now no one was helping with the younger kids, as if the help hadn't always flowed one way, as if the other wives hadn't already paid the price. Christine had walked away quietly. Mary had faded into the background. And Janelle. Janelle had stayed in the fight a little longer, not because she didn't see the truth, but because she thought maybe, just maybe, it would correct itself. It hadn't. So now she was the one holding the cards. Not Robyn with her trinkets, not Kody with his speeches. Janelle with the documents, the memory, the numbers, and the rising support of a fan base who had finally seen the curtain pulled back. She hadn't posted anything dramatic, no tell-all, no explosive live stream, just a quiet shift in energy, a kind of peace that comes when you stop asking to be treated fairly and start preparing to take what's yours. Rumor had it she was compiling everything, not to make a scene, but to draw a line, to say, this happened, here's the proof, and that proof might just be what changes everything. Because this saga was never just about money, it was about value, about what women are told to settle for, about how love can be weaponized into obligation, about how someone like Janelle, stable, loyal, unseen, can become the most dangerous woman in the room when she's finally had enough. Kody and Robyn may still be rehearsing their story for the cameras, but behind the scenes, Janelle's already told hers, not with flair, but with facts, and one day soon she may step in front of that lens and speak it all out loud. The land, the ledger, the dolls, the art, the promises made and broken in the name of family. And when she does, there'll be no editing around it, no spin, just the truth. The real currency, all along, wasn't money, it was loyalty. And Kody? He spent that a long time ago. Now, all that's left is the fallout. And Janelle, finally, walking out of the shadow she was never supposed to leave.